Haaland, disappointment at the end of the day because you've set your standards so high this season.
Yeah, positive is they kept another clean sheet.
Yep.
The negative is with the amount of possession they had, with the chances that they had, they'll be disappointed to go away with only a point. But I think that's the next step. That's the next progression for Newcastle, because that's going to happen an awful lot more, where teams are going to sit and defend, and then Newcastle need to find a way through. They need someone who can unlock that door when teams are going to have that many men behind the ball.
At times this season, the likes of Almiron and Callum Wilson have taken the headlines, but that back line, Eddie Howe has worked wonders. 11 goals conceded all season is something else. Phenomenal.
And the goalkeeper needs to take a lot of praise as well, because he was asked to make one save today. What a save it was. Such a special save. Great reaction. But he's got them all on the same page. They all know their jobs. They all know what they're doing, and they work extremely hard. So it's not a huge disappointment. As you said, another clean sheet. It's a point. But yeah, they could have done more and perhaps should have.
Maybe they will rue a few missed opportunities, Tim?
Maybe so, but I mean, the unbeaten run continues. They keep climbing the table. A point is a point in the right direction. And look, when we look at the top four, this is going to chop and change every single week. And that from Newcastle tells me they're up for the fight. They've gone ahead of Manchester United, put pressure on Manchester United tomorrow, which they have a big game. So they're right in the thick of it. Obviously, 3 points should have been better, but a point is great.
And when you look at the table, Robbie Mustoe, they're on 39 points, and that gap between third, where Newcastle are, and fifth, where Tottenham are, is now at 6 points, having played the same number of games. I think I'm right in saying, yes, 20 games each. So this top four place is getting ever closer and much more realistic with every passing week.
Yeah, and I still believe Newcastle are going to do it.
Yeah.
I think when you look at them play the way, I think all the star players are fit now, I think they're going to do it. I think one of the best 4 teams in the league this year. Just back on the game, we've got to give credit to Crystal Palace as well. And I totally agree with the points being made here by Newcastle, but they had all the players out there. They had Wilson and Almiron in the first half. They bring the subs off the bench as well. Mark Gahey and young American Chris Richards. What a great job with 2 centre-backs. 22 years of age each, plus Mitchell's 23 at left-back. That's a great defensive performance from Palace.
That's true. Chris Richards playing for the second time only in the Premier League, slotted beautifully in. Go on, Rob.
I take a point from Mosley. If you think they played Manchester United and Newcastle, 2 top-form teams, and have got 2 points and have hung in, Rebecca. Sometimes when you're not as good as the opposition, you've got to make sure you don't score. Just going back to Alan's point with Newcastle as well, there's a new respect for Newcastle, and that means they're not going to be easy to break down. And disappointment now is staying in the top 4, where recently disappointment for Newcastle has been being right round the bottom 3. That's where standards have changed so much.
Exactly. 2 goalless draws against Palace last season wasn't too bad. This season, they wanted more. Let me just remind you how Saturday went then today in the Premier League. Goalless draw. We haven't had a load of goals, disappointingly, let's be honest. Liverpool-Chelsea was also 0-0. West Ham with a crucial victory for David Moyes against...
season, because we've just hit the halfway mark, haven't we? But as the reporter just said in that interview, actually it's a sign of how far they've come, the fact that a goalless draw at Selhurst Park is just not good enough.
Yeah, like I said before the game, they're ahead of schedule. But he's accelerated in Eddie Howe in such a good position. You see the relationship they've got with the fans, the togetherness there, and transforming that onto the pitch is phenomenal. And how far that can take you is incredible. You know, this is an amazing place to go and play football. You know, when you have to go there to St James's Park, it's just one of the best arenas with the atmosphere how it is at the moment. It's jumping. So they expect as well, which comes with a little bit of pressure. But they appreciated their efforts today. It wasn't for the want of trying. It's just a little bit extra quality in the final third, which was needed. Like I say, I was just a little bit surprised. I mean, Eddie's got most of the decisions right since he's been at Newcastle, but I was surprised when he made the change, when you need a goal to bring off Callum Wilson. If you're going to introduce Isak, no problem with that, but surely give him another striker to play with.
Do you think
I was surprised.
The semi-final, mate?
Absolutely.
Might have played in his head and thinking,
100%,
you know what?
Karen.
Might...
100%, because the last thing he wants to do is lose both of them. So it was almost a like-for-like. Callum will obviously start in the semi-final against Southampton on Tuesday night. But the Champions League, surely, like I said, I keep saying it's ahead of schedule, but surely it's the holy grail, really, for a team like Newcastle to get the head of schedule. And what that brings you get to the Champions League and you start attracting, we know they've got the finances, but also you start attracting some of the best players around the world because you give them an opportunity to play in the Champions League. It looks like next year, the way the league is at the moment, Chelsea might struggle to get there, Tottenham might struggle to get there, and Liverpool at this moment in time might struggle to get to the Champions League. So some of the best players in the world only want to play on that stage. Yes, they want to come to the Premier League because it's the best league in the world, but it's an added incentive if your team is in the Champions League. Newcastle are in touching distance of getting there. You're absolutely right, Seema, it's only halfway, but they put themselves in such a great position. And who's to say they haven't? Their recruitment might be so good that they might have someone up their sleeve now. I think they've got a good infrastructure there. You know, Dan Ashworth's gone in there. Darren Hill's one of the directors. You know, they've got a team behind the scenes. And I think if they produce him, the players, if they recruit them, bring them in now, and I think they get a real opportunity to finish in the top 4.
And their success this season has been built on a really solid defence, which is so important if you're going for a top 4 position.
No, it is. You know, we spoke there with Pope and Trippier, and they made Chair a lot better. Botman's come in as well. So, you know, they've come in and bought the right type of players to have that defensive solid base, really. That's all your foundations that you build on. And that's 15 games unbeaten now, another clean sheet to their name. And I've always said it, you know, goals win your games, but clean sheets win your championships. And they'll start finding goals is the hardest thing and also the most expensive thing. And like Tim said, they've got the right recruitment. But more importantly, they've got the right manager, because even if you go and spend on an experienced player, you might go and find a young player that you know the manager's going to make him even better because of what he's done to that group. But the foundations are all in place, what we're seeing week in, week out. They are a force to be reckoned with, but in the back of their mind, I think the semi-final, what it will mean to the fans, had an impact on today's game.
I'll tell you someone who did have an impact on today's game, and that's the goalkeeper, Nick Pope. And look at Nick Pope's record. 12th clean sheet in this season.
Yeah.
That's a great record, isn't it?
That's why he's in my fantasy team.
Ah.
You know, I'm not as silly as I look.
No, that's good. That's very good. Yeah, he's doing very well in fantasy football, aren't you?
He's top draw.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he's one of them goalkeepers, and Karen's hit the nail on the head there. He doesn't feel like he needs to be in the action all of the time. We've got a lot of goalkeepers in the Premier League who want to be involved all the time. He's quite happy being quiet, but his concentration's so good that when he's needed, he pulls off saves like that. Fantastic. It's a calming influence on the back 4.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?